Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Nathan Solomon, the managing editor of the Podium Finish. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. It's been a while since you've been on here.
I know. It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So lots been talked about, lots has happened. So let's talk about this past weekend at Darlington. We'll start with the Cup race, because obviously that's the main topic of conversation, as well as with everything that's happened with Ross and all that stuff. How do you think the Cup race went?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like a pretty good race. So actually, I didn't watch a whole lot of it in person. I listened to most of the race on MRN. I was kind of doing some traveling on Sunday, so I was not able to visually watch the race, but I was certainly keeping tabs with everything going on social media and like I said, listening on MRN. From what I could tell, it seemed like I mean, obviously, it was a very entertaining race. I mean, a lot of drama at the end. Obviously, drama with Ross Chastain and Kyle Larson there in the closing laps. Drama with him and Martin Truex Jr. at the end of stage two. That really, I don't want to say like beef between Ross and Martin because they're certainly not, but just in terms of the outcome of the race, it certainly altered that. In terms of racing quality, seemed like it was kind of hard to pass, harder than everybody thought. Especially usually when it's like 90 out and sunny, like it is, or like it was at Darlington. Usually that's a great recipe for lots of slipping and sliding and a pretty easy for it to pass, but it seemed like it was tougher to pass than it had been the last couple times we had been at Darlington, or at least since we've had the new car. So, but yeah, again, I think that the way that maybe some of the cautions fell and the way that the drama picked up really beginning at the end of stage two there when Truex went spinning after hitting Chastain. I mean, it made for a good race. So, like I said, definitely a good race, but in terms of the quality of racing, I think still room for improvement.
Absolutely. Well, there's always room for improvement. Um, let's obviously the main topic of things there. The last few days has been obviously with Ross, but what obviously pretty much everybody heard the comments that Justin Marks made on SiriusXM yesterday. Do you see any changes happening with him?
It's not going to be easy because, I mean, if you look at Ross Chastain's track record, at least since he's been in good equipment, he's always kind of had a history of some of these run ins. Now, it's not been every week like it's been this season or at times last season. I mean, middle of last summer, it seemed like we were saying his name just about every week, too. This year, I feel like it's in a much greater scale because it's more than just like Denny Hamlin. I mean, it's been Kyle Larson a couple of times. Obviously, the one time with Larson, Brendan Poole also got the short end of the stick. That was at Dover. And then the beef with Noah Gragson a couple of times. Yeah, I mean, Ross is in the storylines for essentially altering the outcome of each race every week. And obviously, Rick Hendrick had some really strong comments on Sunday saying, it doesn't really matter that we're all in the bow tie brigade here. Like, I mean, if Ross pushes around my drivers, I expect my drivers to push back. I'm not sure if maybe Justin Marks got a message from Chevrolet Monday morning that said, all right, time to dial him back, or kind of what has led to that, because Justin has been pretty much wanting Ross to be Ross. So I don't think there's ever like going to be fixing Ross, but I think you have to find a way to kind of dial it back. I mean, I think Ross is very good for the sport, don't get me wrong. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff he does, but it's still really good for the sport. I mean, he was on the Pat McAfee show last week. I mean, mainstream stuff there, right? So I think they need to find a way to dial him back a little bit, but still letting him be him without wrecking somebody every week and letting those wrecks affect the outcome of the race, not just for his, the guys that he's racing against, but himself, because a couple of these times that he's gotten into these scuffles, it's taken him out of the race too. And I mean, on Sunday, if he doesn't run Larson up into the wall, he wins that race. So I think it's getting to the point now where some of these incidents are hurting his chances and stopping him from winning races. That's why I think Justin Marks is saying, all right, we have to step in now because it's beginning to become too much in a sense where it's hurting his own performance.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the winner of the race, William Byron. And by the way, if you I got a chance to talk with William Byron yesterday. Go check out my channel for that interview. And big thanks to Hendrick Motorsports for helping me out with that as always. He's got 3 wins on the season now. And this is most wins he's had in his NASCAR Cup Series career in a year. What's that going to be like with the outlook of the 2014, you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's really quietly had a good year. I mean, the two wins came earlier on the West Coast swing, obviously. I don't want to say controversy with Phoenix, but I think that kind of got overshadowed because of the whole Louver situation. Obviously, won at Las Vegas, like I mentioned, and now Darlington. But he's certainly been in the mix every week. I mean, he's been one of the five fastest cars week in and week out. He's basically had outside of maybe a couple races, so I think we're 13 races in, outside of maybe two or three races, he's probably been good enough to at least contend for the win. And now on Sunday, he was definitely not the best car. He was probably maybe the fifth best car, the sixth best car, but again, the way some of these cautions fell and the way some of these wrecks happened let him get to the front and win. Obviously, I mean, I think that Martin Truex Jr. was better than him. I think his teammate Kyle Larson was better than him. I'd certainly say Ross was probably the best car out there throughout the entirety of the race. So there's at least three cars that were better than Williams. So maybe his ceiling was a fourth place car, but then obviously with what was it, 6 to go, I think it was, when the Ross and Kyle Larson deal happened, and then the caution before that when Martin Truex Jr. crashed. There's certainly some controversy about how some of those cars got scored. Like there's three cars that were in the crash, but were scored ahead of some of the cars that made it through the crash without getting any damage, which probably shouldn't have been right. So I think the cars with damage kind of bogged down the rest of the field. So William Byron just got off to a great restart on the green white checkered, and I mean nobody had anything for him. So I mean, I'm not gonna blame NASCAR. I mean, I think William probably would have won the race anyway. But I mean, the way that they scored that caution, the second to last caution, was wrong and needs to be better in the future. But yeah, I mean, after Kyle wrecked and Ross wrecked and just kind of, well, and Martin too. I mean, all three of those cars were the best cars, and they all got crashed in the last two restarts. William probably was the best car left on the track at that point. So he's put himself in position to win probably 10 of the 13 races this year, and now he's capitalized on three of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's obviously they'll be at North Wilkesboro this week. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's talk about Xfinity and trucks. Of course, Kyle Larson won the Xfinity race. A lot of good performances out of that race from different drivers. The battle between John Hunter and and Kyle Larson. We saw a lot of guys that were up in the front. Sam Mayer was leading a lot of laps early on too. What was your overall takeaways from that Xfinity race?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Xfinity race was awesome. It was a great race, really from top to bottom. Again, kind of the way the cautions fell certainly made it entertaining. Kyle Larson getting that speeding penalty with 40 to go, and then the question of, is he going to be able to get through the field? And then, I mean, if those two late cautions didn't happen, he wouldn't have had a chance. Maybe he would have gotten into the top five, but he wouldn't have had a chance to get back to the lead. Got lucky with those two cautions and then set up an epic battle there. I think it was a 4-lap shootout there for the win. Nemechek obviously got a really good restart, and then Larson was able just to kind of reel him in. And I mean, credit to both of them. They raced each other basically as clean as they could. Obviously got a little sloppy there at 3 and 4, but it was certainly entertaining. And I know Kyle didn't want to wreck Nemechek down the front stretch. That was certainly not his intention. He just said, hey, I got tight. I hit the wall, bounced off the wall, and it just, Nemechek just happened to be there. Not much he could do. And credit to Nemechek for understanding that. I think there's a lot of Xfinity drivers in that position of, I'm an Xfinity guy and I'm racing a Cup guy for a win in the Xfinity series. I'm going to be pissed off that I got wrecked down the front stretch for the win by the Cup driver. But, Nemechek, who already has 2 wins, like I said, understood that and was like, hey, this is just good hard racing. No hard feelings. Obviously, it sucks I didn't win, but I'm just disappointed in the result, not frustrated at Kyle. So great finish. I mean, for whatever reason, just the cars in that track in that series, they just put together a great show every single time. So a lot of credit for the Xfinity series, and glad that they were able to be highlighted on Big Fox for that one.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at the standings so far, I mean, a lot of drivers picked up some big points. Like Hemrick's plus 33, Mayer is plus 35. He had a good day. Had to battle back from adversity though a little bit. Riley Herbst is still in plus territory, as well as guys like Sheldon Creed and Cole Custer and all that. So I'll have to see what happens there, because it's gonna still a long way to go until their playoffs start. And then for trucks, it's not as another win by Christian Eckes and that 19 team. It seems like the story this year has been, I think a lot of people are very surprised at the McAnally Hilgeman team and how they've been able to perform. Not just Christian, but Jake Garcia as well. And again, had to battle another Cup guy to get the win.
Absolutely. I mean, Christian Eckes has been a massive surprise this season. After the end of last season, we kind of didn't really know what was going to happen to him. Was he going to go back to ThorSport? And obviously, that was before ThorSport made the manufacturer change as well. And then just a lot of different moving pieces resulted in him going over to BMR. Obviously, kind of a tough hand for Derek Kraus, who kind of got pushed out of a ride for Christian Eckes, but that decision that BMR made has certainly paid off. I mean, Eckes has won twice now, and he's had top 5 speed basically every race. I know he's kind of had a not great sequence of races up until Darlington. A lot of that was just bad luck, though. But I mean, he was a dominant truck on Friday. But a couple of big surprises. I mean, the Ford guys they were way off in that one. Like, I mean, I didn't expect Zane Smith to run 20th all race. I don't know exactly where he finished. I think he finished a little bit better than that. But I mean, he was mid-pack really the whole race. There was definitely some guys that we really thought would be factors on Friday that were just nowhere to be found. But yeah, Eckes was the class of the field in that race. And yeah, like you said, had to hold off another Cup guy, had to hold off William Byron, but he by far had the fastest truck, and I'm not sure what changes BMR made over the offseason to find the speed, but man, they are fast, and Christian Eckes is proving that he can certainly be a title contender.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, the trucks are going to be racing next week at it's the first time since 1996. North Wilkesboro is back on a NASCAR schedule. There'll be the first points paying race with the truck race, and that will also be on Big Fox at 1 p.m. Saturday. So that will be fun to watch, and there's going to be racing all across that week there. And of course, starting tonight with the ASA Stars Tour. By the way, that is a brand new tour full of a bunch of super late, lots of Cup guys. We highlighted a bunch of those racers last week. A lot of kids are going to be in there too. So we got the ASA race and both the Cars Tour races on Tuesday and Wednesday, filled with guys from the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, the ARCA Series, and then just a bunch of your regular super late model drivers. So it's gonna be a fun weekend, and it all culminates with the All-Star race on Sunday, and of course, that'll be. What are we expecting at North Wilkesboro this weekend, there, Nathan?
I can tell you one thing for sure. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. I can tell you one thing, definitely. Lots of tire fall off. I mean, that track is just going to chew up tires. And it doesn't matter if the All-Star race or the truck race. I mean, well, even the late models for that matter. But obviously, pit sequencing and pit stops are going to be a lot different for the NASCAR side of things. But yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of pit stops. Pit road is going to be very busy every time the caution comes out, because you run 5-6 laps on that track and your tires are probably already going to be destroyed. And I remember, I think it was Drew Herring, who does a lot of testing for Toyota. He said that, like, at the end of a long run, and he's Martin Truex Jr. spotter, but at the end of a long run at North Wilkesboro, I mean, he could hardly hold the thing wide open down the back stretch or down the front stretch, because your tires are just so chewed up, like you just lose control. So tire wear is going to be a massive factor. I think we are going to see multiple seconds of tire fall off from beginning of run to end of run, and tire fall off leads to great racing. So I think both series are going to put on an absolute treat. I'm very excited to watch it. Should be 2 awesome shows.
Yeah.
Well, really many awesome shows, I guess, if we're going to include the late models too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it'll be fun, and it's starting tonight with the ASA Stars Tour. If you and the best thing, it is on Flow Racing. So obviously, if you purchase the big package on Racing America, this is the one race that's not included to this, because obviously Flow Racing does all the North Wilkesboro content. So it's the home of the ASA Stars Tour and both the Cars Tour races. So should be fun to watch. And then the truck race and the Cup race and the All-Star race coming up this weekend. All right. All right, Nathan, that's going to do it. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Always, Casey. Thanks for having me.